YouTube is allowing creators to opt out of, allowing creators an opt-in for third-party AI training.
I don't like, random companies using my stuff for AI training
because I don't want it to be like this. This mediocre podcast here is talking about blah 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 blah, and it seems like one of the guys might already be drunk. NASA thinks they know why the Mars helicopter crashed.
It's not going to fly, but it's stuck wherever it is, but it's still taking, weather measurements and stuff.
Especially on something like this, right? Why would you run anything else on something like this? You put a very small version of Linux on it and you're good to go. They were even able to update it.
Do you know if it's upright or if it's on its side? Or
welcome back to How the Tech Are You? I am producer Dave. I'm the producer, co-producer, and co-host of this show, and the producer of all of the other stuff here at Eplex Media. Make sure you check us out live on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Eplex Media. Also, some of our stuff goes to YouTube, and I don't recommend checking us out there because it kind of sucks watching a show all by yourself. Speaking of YouTube, my first story is about YouTube. YouTube is allowing creators to opt out of, allowing creators an opt-in for third-party AI training. So the default setting for this is off, which is good. And there will be a list of third-party AI models that you can allow to train on your content, though I don't know why anybody would want to do that. And as you may have already guessed, you cannot opt out of the Google AI training.
Of course.
What do you think, Matt?
Well, first of all, I want to say that this particular show is on YouTube and is kind of fundamentally a YouTube show that we do put out a podcast version of it. So please go see that on this show on YouTube. I don't like random companies using my stuff for AI training because they're using it and getting compensated for the use, and I'm not getting compensated downline. So I don't like that. If they were doing it for free, if it was like an open source project, I would have different thoughts about it. But I don't. Yeah, these AI companies are kind of scummy.
Right. Well, that's good that this is opt-in, right? You have to go in and take measures that you turn it on, not that you have to dig through some arcane and difficult to navigate menu system to figure out whether or not to turn it off. And I think this is better. And I think more stuff like this should be opt-in versus opt-out.
Yeah. Well, the other part of that is you're talking about how Google trains their AI on YouTube videos. And specifically, I've been using like Gemini and using it I have a different show that's also on YouTube that is a scripted show. And I've been using Gemini to help with the scripting. I would not say that I use it to script because I tried to do that and it was incredibly bad. and at one point I thought, oh, well, I'm just getting to use it to get the structure of the story down. Then I'm going to rewrite everything. And then I realized that I was writing the structure when I do the outline, which is what I give to it to write the script. So at this point, I don't know how useful it is at all. I don't know if you've tried any of the AI writing software.
What you're saying is it may be an extra step that actually makes your work harder because you have to go through and like fact check what it's saying versus you going out and finding the facts in the first place and wording it the way that you wanted it in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to get the facts to begin with. And even then I have to word stuff pretty specifically to get the output that I want, so that doesn't use its own knowledge base to write something. It uses the research that I got, instead. So then I'm like, I end up writing almost as much as it's writing back for it,
Right.
And then I have to rewrite on top of that because it doesn't know what humor is, and it just sounds like a thirsty YouTuber, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't use it for scripting because I don't really script a lot of stuff, but I will say that I've found AI pretty useful in like coming up with ideas for designs for things. Not necessarily. The only one HK sent me one of a cat that I used that he made. And then I did a shirt that says crisis actor on it. And I decided to just use the AI output for that because it was kind of appropriate.
Okay.
But it's useful for that. But I think like for writing, I would like if I was writing an article about something, I mean, first of all, like the stuff I write about is so far into the weeds that I don't think that these models are going to know what I'm talking about. Like, so it would probably just be a bunch of gobbledygook. But then also, like, I have people that do copy editing. I'm not trying to copy edit what Anthropic or Bard or Grok or whatever spits out for me. I don't want to do that. I noticed our web host, Squarespace, the main web host, will let you upload an audio file and then it will generate an AI description of that audio file. And I have not pressed the button for that.
Okay.
Because I don't want it to be like this mediocre podcast here is talking about blah 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 blah. And it seems like one of the guys might already be drunk, right? Like
Right.
So, when you get into the Google universe, you kind of accept that they're going to use everything you're doing for their products, right? Like,
right.
So, but you don't accept that third parties are going to do it. And they could have just made it opt out and buried it and maybe even had agreements with these other third parties to get paid for your content on YouTube. So I'm actually surprised they did it this way.
Yeah.
Except maybe they want the YouTube data for themselves.
Yeah. Sounds like what they're doing.
Yeah. And the list of different AI models is in the show notes. I looked and none of them appeared to be open source. Because if, like you said, if there was an open source one, I'd check that box. Like if I, not just open in the name, but like an open source project that I could verify was a real open source project, I would definitely contribute to that. I love that stuff. And especially if, somebody out there is dumping money into something to try to compete with these, big companies that are doing this, something for the people, but didn't find any of that. So that's the way it goes. And as always, well, in this case, I'm going to say good for YouTube. I usually don't say that, but good for them for giving you the option. But I just can't see a situation in which that anybody would say, "Oh, all right, I'm going to let Sam Altman have my day." Why would you?
Right. I would not do that myself. Definitely.
Although I could see doing an experiment if you were incredibly popular, right?
Yeah.
I could see doing an experiment where you go on and you just give a bunch of false information about a topic and see if you can get OpenAI to spit that false information out as the answer to questions. I'd do stuff like that.
Wasn't there another, like there was some group that figured out that they could add like noise to images. I think they were only experimenting with images. And if they got those images into training sets, it would completely screw up the AI generation. Right?
I think we covered that.
I think a while ago. Yeah,
it's a very you story. It sounds like.
Yeah, I probably did cover it quite a while ago, and I don't remember it. I don't remember specifically who was doing it, but
I think I remember talking about it, and it doesn't really sound like something I'd talk about on the Cults show. So
no, I'm pretty sure we covered it. I just don't remember which episode or who it was that was doing it. Might have been just some researchers somewhere.
All right. Well, I'm going to move on to my next story. I have two this week. Okay. I usually have two. Sometimes I have one, but this week I have two. NASA thinks they know why the Mars helicopter crashed. If you remember, we did cover the Mars helicopter crashing on the show, probably about a year ago, because that's when it crashed. About a year ago, the helicopter Ingenuity crashed in January of 2024. Seems like the navigation system got confused by like featureless, rippled, sandy terrain. And as such, the vehicle hit the ground at too high a speed, causing it to pitch and roll, breaking the blades. The helicopter's a trooper, though. It still reports back weather and test data to the main rover, like at least once a week. Not bad, because if you remember, they expected that thing to do 5 trips. Remember?
Yeah, something about that. A lot of the stuff that they sent to Mars has been doing a lot better than they thought, right? Than NASA thought. Probably because they've over-engineered stuff, thinking that something was going to go wrong, because it has in the past. But, this in fact went wrong, just, other stuff still works. So that's great. So it's not going to fly, but it's stuck wherever it is, but it's still taking, weather measurements and stuff. Yeah. And pointing back. Cool.
Little trooper.
Still kind of doing its job. Yeah.
And the reason I got interested in it at first was I found out that helicopter runs Linux.
Oh, yeah.
But because of course it does.
Doesn't most of their stuff run Linux, or did they...
Yeah.
I think one time they had Windows.
Some of the older stuff, I'm sure, is proprietary NASA code, and I'm sure some of the stuff's probably old enough that it's running like old Unix,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they do, and especially on something like this, right? why would you run anything
Yeah.
else on something like this? You put a, like a very small version of Linux on it and you're good to go. They were even able to update it.
Cool. Planet to planet updates.
I wonder what the ping time is on that.
I forget how long it is. Isn't it a few hours or something? The round trip to for light to Mars and back, or I guess it probably depends on the where it is in its orbit and Earth in its orbit.
I wouldn't think it'd be a few hours, but who knows? Who knows? But
yeah.
You certainly can't do a video call with the Mars rover.
No. Well, you can. There'd just be a really, really long delay.
Right. You'd wave and then you'd wait.
Yep.
And then because it doesn't have a hand, it wouldn't even wave back at you.
That's right. It doesn't even have blades now. They broke off, right, in the crash. So can't even do that. But do you know if it's upright or if it's on its side or you don't know?
So it was unclear because it said that it pitched and rolled, but that could just mean that it pitched and rolled enough that the blades, maybe they were still spinning, they hit the ground and it's still standing up. That was unclear from the article and from the diagrams in the article. I mean, if it's on its side, I don't know where the solar panels are. I don't know how those work. So I would assume it ended up back upright because I imagine the solar panels are set up in such a way where they're optimized for the thing being, upright, but I'm just guessing here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But again, this thing lasted for I don't know, hundreds of times longer than they thought it was going to last or something like that.
Right.
So good on them. And, this is like, examples of what's good about NASA is that, when you build something like this, you're building it with like public money. You don't really have any motivation to cheap out on the components. The motivation is to gather as much information as you can. And like you said, over engineer it because you would like it to work as long as possible. And I'll just leave it there and not make any other commentary on maybe another way that we might get one of these to Mars or who might build it. It's been How the Tech Are You? This is usually our weekly show about technology here at Eplex Media. We were off for 2 weeks. I had to move, but we're back every week, hopefully now. We may end up having some day off during the holidays. It's a viewer-supported project, so go to echoplexmedia.com/support if you'd like to support this project. And you are required to click one of these two things at the end of my fingers, or your computer will crash. Have a great tech and week.